So I know recently I've been making more videos talking about the recent sort of slowdown we've had in the Pokemon market. Nothing's crashing, but things have slowed down, and I've showed some evidence of that happening. Now, in this video, I am going to show even more evidence and kind of compile all the different factors and just, evidence of, this market is slowing down a little bit. And how you can use this information going into Destined Rivals, and how this is actually, in my opinion, very important to pay attention to, that the market is somewhat slowing down, because you might have had this price point in your mind of what you were willing to purchase Destined Rivals at, right? You might be like, okay, based on where it's at now, based on the demand, the hype, I'm going to buy at this price point. But since we are facing this recent downturn, you might want to readjust some of your maybe price points you were willing to pay for Destined Rivals, and sort of your attitude going on. Now, I've recently not been just making these videos to set this up as like this whole market's crashing, everything's going bad, because the market's still strong. But I think it's very important to actually understand and look at what's going on in the market. I know some people say that people are looking too far into it, and the market's still super strong. But there's a lot of evidence, in my opinion, that the market is slowing down, quite a bit from where we were a couple months ago. And I think a lot of people in the space, the problem there is that we're in this investing space, right? And whenever you talk about some sort of downturn or some evidence pointing to the market maybe slowing down, automatically people say you're a Timmy, you don't know what you're talking about, you're looking too far into it. But here's the thing. When you're looking at a set, especially the next set, which is going to be like the most hyped up main set, right? And you're looking at where the price point is at, it's very high, right? It's important to look at these smaller factors that might point to, okay, buying this box at this price is risky. There is a very maybe high chance, based on these factors, that buying at this price point is probably not that smart. And I feel like that's the problem that people don't point out when, I guess you get like negative, feedback or whatever if you talk about a downturn. Because I know a lot of people, if you talk about a downturn, everybody just says you don't know what you're talking about. This market's still super strong and nothing's going on. I feel like it is really important, because you're buying some of these new sets at really high prices, and I think some people who are going to be oblivious to this stuff and say, like, yeah, the market's super strong, there's no way there's any downturn or anything going on. I feel like that's when people lose money. And when you're investing in stuff, and like I said, especially at a high price point, you should be looking into this stuff. I think there is some overconfidence in the space, 100%. Some people saying it doesn't matter what Pokemon comes out with, everything's still going to be super strong, everyone's just going to buy it because it's hyped and everything. Journey Together, I think, is a big indication that's not the truth. And I feel like that's the problem, is a lot of people in the space, I feel like, are super overconfident without any evidence or any information showing that this market is as strong as they make it seem to be. Because when you look at the data, there has been a downturn, and like I said, the market's still strong, but it's not as crazy as people think in terms of how it was a couple months ago. If you were talking about where we were during the Prismatic release, 100% all the hype, everything, no one during that time could say anything was going bad in the market in terms of downturns. But right now, where we are at, there has been a noticeable downturn that you should consider when buying Destined Rivals, okay? I'm not trying to sit here and scare you that the market's crashing, because it's not. But be careful what you're buying at, because you might think the market is stronger than it really is, and buy at that high price point, and then when the set gets released in a few weeks after, if it doesn't turn out how you think it will, you might be sitting on that box for a while before it goes up. And that's the truth. A lot of people here will, maybe see this video and say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about or whatever. Then go ahead. You can buy Destined Rivals, whatever, at whatever price point, at a high price point, if you think it's going to go even higher, and we'll see what happens. Because I'm just here to give my opinion. I may be wrong. Destined Rivals, even though this market is seeing some sort of recent downturn, it might just take off. It could. But it's also possible that the hype that has been built up has been a bit more than what it really is. And I feel like that's something in the space that needs to be said, because there is overconfidence in the space. And when you watch a lot of these channels, other than mine, I see a lot of people make these videos, and it's so obvious, I guess, in my opinion, that, I don't know, there's just too many people overconfident. And there's going to be a time where a set comes out where people buy tons of it, and it doesn't skyrocket. And then people are like, wow, I wish I didn't buy this much. It's going to happen. And I'm just here to tell you, look at the data, look at the market, which I'll show you in this video. see generally what is going on and use that to, I guess, your advantage of how you're gonna, I guess, invest into the next set, Destined Rivals. That's all this video is about. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you not to buy anything, but just know, be careful about your price point because the market recently has been seeing some downturns. Now, the first thing I'm gonna talk about is Journey Together. Now, Journey Together was hyped up. It was, right? It's not as hyped up as Destined Rivals, sure, but it was hyped up. It did have the hype. And the whole argument where people say it doesn't matter what set comes out, it's just going to go up or whatever. I mean, Journey Together, it is expensive out the gate. It is the most expensive booster box we've seen, but it has seen a pretty, decent sized decrease in price, but also the sales volume. That's the biggest thing. The sales volume for the set has dropped off a lot since release, which shows that it's not as strong as I guess it seemed to be in the beginning on pre-orders when this peaked at $300. So the whole argument people make that Destined Rivals, it doesn't matter what's in the set, it's gonna be super hyped. I don't really agree with it because look at Journey Together. Like, I know it's not as good, but the argument being made that it doesn't matter, that's in my opinion not really true because it does matter. If it didn't matter, Journey Together by now, it's been a couple of weeks, I think there would have been higher sales volume. I think prices would maybe see some increases, but it's been pretty stable at around 210, 215, which isn't a bad thing, but it just goes to show that it does matter what's in these sets. It does matter about all these things that people say might not matter. It does. And there's just evidence of that. So you can see this booster box right now. It's at 215. You can see sales for what it is. I mean, yeah, it's a brand new set. Yeah, it's pretty expensive. But if we are in this super extremely strong market, 30 to 40 boxes being sold for the newest hot set, it doesn't seem that crazy to me, comparing to previous sets such as Prismatic when ETBs were selling for double MSRP and still selling 100 plus a day. Just my opinion, but yeah, I mean, it has dropped off. Even though sales are like still okay, it's not crazy, right? And we're still seeing the price at 210, 215 with really no signs of it going up anytime soon, at least any huge increases. And next year, the ETB, these at one point were below $70. Now they're around 72. They look like they're going to stay around the $70 range, mid 70s for a little bit of time. The sales volume for these, it's 50 to 60 boxes is decent. Some days around 100 boxes get sold. But it's not that expensive comparatively to what we've seen from previous sets. I mean, Surging Sparks ETBs. I know Surging Sparks is a lot older. Those are $100. I just don't see these going up really much anytime soon unless the booster box starts going up, because overall this set, just the sales volume just hasn't been as strong as we've seen with previous sets. So I don't see this going up a ton anytime like really soon. And just overall, the cards in the set have been just going down every single day. The set value is now at $950. I think this could go sub 900, to be honest. I thought sub 1,000 was probably maybe where it was going to stop, but it continues to go down. As card prices go down, I don't see how sealed will go up, to be honest, unless just a ton of people are ripping Journey Together. But I feel like at this point, people probably have gotten their fix of opening the setup just because, there was a good amount of it available seemingly at stores. I saw a lot of people being able to get them. And just a lot of people were happy with the pools. So I think for that reason, there could also be a slowdown in just opening sealed product. So I think just overall, there's really no signs of Journey Together like moving anytime in the near future. So moving on to Prismatic. So Prismatic being, the most expensive, hyped up set so far in this era, the past month, the ETB hasn't done anything. And, if we are in this supposed super strong market, I know 140 is still crazy. Yes, it's still crazy for an ETB. I get it, right? It's like only a couple months old. I understand, yeah, it's still expensive. It's like 3 months old. But okay, if you look at the value in this set, right? And you look at what it has going for it. I feel like at this point, 3 months after release, I feel like prices should have moved up a little bit more from where they're at, because there's no other set in this era that has a card that's $1,500. There's no card, right? There's no set that has a set value of $8,000 other than Prismatic. And I feel like at this point, the Prismatic, I feel like the Prismatic products, a lot of them should be a little bit higher than where they're at, but they're not. It's because we've seen some sort of, recent downturn, even though sales are still pretty high. Like, don't get me wrong, for a ETB that's $130, like 50 boxes being sold every single day, that's still good. But in the past month, it has seen stagnation, and just across Prismatic, a lot of the products have just been stagnant. And if you look at the past 3 months, you can see there was a really big run up from when it was released, but you can see the stagnation we have faced. There is maybe going to be a point, which I believe soon, that this will go up if we don't get any huge amount of restocks. I know that Prismatic ETB reprint is coming, so it's possible this will continue to stagnate and then maybe go down when that reprint does hit. But Prismatic, being the most hyped up thing in the past month, has been stagnant, which shows, if this market is super strong, why hasn't it really gone up? Why has it actually gone down? And then now it's sort of just slowly recovered. Now moving on, just overall, Scarlet and Violet booster boxes in the past month, the majority of them have been stagnant. Surging Sparks, you can see here, has been stagnant. Look at Paldea Evolved, has been stagnant. Look at Twilight Masquerade, has been stagnant. All very popular sets from this era, all stagnant within the last month. Now let's move on to Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield, I mean, this has not just been like the last month thing. Sword and Shield for the past 3 months has been pretty stagnant. If you look at Evolving Skies past 3 months, hasn't really done anything. Past month hasn't really done anything, and this is the most popular set from Sword and Shield, or most expensive set, whatever you want to call it. I know this is super expensive for a modern box, but it still shows that there has been downturn with the most popular expensive set from Sword and Shield. Hasn't moved in the past few months. Lost Origin, past month hasn't done anything. Past 3 months, it did rebound from where it was at when all like the Sword and Shield booster boxes saw the downturn. Has recovered, but the past month hasn't done anything. Fusion Strike, same situation as Lost Origin, recovered from the downturn, and now it's just been stagnant. It hasn't reached any new highs. And moving on from just the data and just the charts, a big indication I've seen of, I guess, this downturn is this subreddit. Now, if you were on this subreddit even just a month ago, right? I'm talking every single day, you would have posts on the top of this subreddit talking about scalpers, these sob stories, right? If you guys know what I'm talking about, I made videos about these. They're gone. If you go on the subreddit in the past couple weeks, I don't think there's really been many sob stories or many people crying about how they saw a scalper and they, saw somebody rip a ETB out of some kid's hand. Like, that's kind of gone now. Like, the crying and the sort of all like this scalper, evil person, I haven't been seeing that recently. And it really goes to show something that, there's definitely been some sort of shift. Because when Prismatic was out, for the whole like month or two after the set was released, you would continuously see people talking about the evil Prismatic scalpers. It's all gone. If you look at all this stuff, you'll scroll down, you actually will see more posts about collecting rather than people crying about scalpers. So that's another point, in my opinion, of data looking at how this market, it's not as hectic as it used to be because there's less people crying, right? There's less people complaining about everything going on right now in the market where everything's too expensive in these evil scalpers. That's a big thing that I've noticed because recently, you may know that like I haven't been posting as many of these subreddit videos because there's not much going on. Like, there's no one complaining, there's nobody talking about these crazy stories, and it's just been kind of quiet. So that's definitely something I noticed. Now, moving on to the point that I'm trying to make with this video, moving into Destined Rivals. I would say if Prismatic was the set before Destined Rivals and it wasn't Journey Together, I would be a ton more bullish about Destined Rivals. But there's been such a drastic shift and I feel like in the market from Prismatic, the craziness, to Journey Together, where it seems, and I know this sounds maybe crazy to say, but it's almost like things are not back to normal because I know the price is still crazy for everything, but the feeling isn't there like it was in Prismatic. Like, Journeys Together was sort of a letdown seemingly. I know it's kind of, I don't know, the pre-order situation was kind of fun because everything was going crazy, but now things have sort of quieted down. It's not as crazy, and I feel like that shift in change of just, I guess, the whole environment in Pokemon from Prismatic, the craziness, to Journey Together where things have downturned, I feel like Destined Rivals has to be even more crazier than what people thought to really see an uproar in this whole market. Because if, in my opinion, this set was released just after Prismatic, this would go crazier than what it's probably going to do now being released after Journey Together, because there has been a pretty big shift, in my opinion, of this whole, space of Pokemon, because things have been, quieter, things haven't been crazy. So I really, in my opinion, think, Destined Rivals it's not going to be maybe as crazy as it could have been because of Journey Together being released just before this set. And, Destined Rivals, I have noticed recently, and this is for every set, so I can't say this is specifically for this set because it happens all the time. I've noticed more negative sentiment around Destined Rivals recently. I've noticed more people saying it's not living up to what they want it to be. I know people say that about every set, so it's not maybe the most relevant information. But I remember a few weeks ago, even a month ago, when we were getting the first reveals and everything, people were super bullish. Like, there's very little amount of people being negative. But recently, since we've gotten a few more cards, still there's a lot more SARs that have to be revealed. So I know those could get crazy and then people's minds will change. I understand. But there has been a lot more people saying this is a letdown. You just gotta, take the information online for what you want to take it. Take this information for what you want to take it. This is just my take on the market and how to use this information going on to investing into Destined Rivals. I feel like it is important to pay attention to what is going on in the market to actually make your decisions of what price points you want to buy at, because it would be different if Destined Rivals was like an $120, $160 booster box. The argument that you shouldn't pay attention to this market noise would make more sense. But the difference here that I see, that I'm thinking about and why I'm making this video, is the price point is extremely high. That's the difference. And that's where I feel like the overconfident people will be, maybe listening to some of these people being like, don't listen to anybody on the internet that the market is seeing some downturn, everything's still super strong. If you want to buy this booster box of $275, go ahead. But at the same time, like, I'm trying to sit here and tell you guys, you are seeing this downturn. It's relevant to pay attention to because you're spending your money. And if you're trying to actually invest in this stuff and you're buying at this high price point, you should be wary of what's going on in this market. It is possible still, with these cards that are supposed to be revealed, it could make this price look good. It's possible, but so far with just the general market, things have slowed down. So that's all I want to say here. I'm not saying the market's crashing. It's not. But be careful, I guess, of your decision making with this set and what price point you want to buy, because it's definitely a set you will want to have to invest it into 100%. But it's very important that you're getting this at a price point that's not too high to the point where it could drop below it and sit there for a while, especially if you need the money. Because I know there's a lot of people that may look at Destined Rivals, put all their money into it because they're seeing this as this crazy set. But then what if it comes out, it's still a decent set, but it doesn't go crazy like you thought it would? What happens then? You sell for a loss, you lose money? Things to think about. I'm not trying to be negative about this market, but I'm just showing the data and the facts of what's going on. I'm not ignoring it. I know some people say maybe you're looking too far into it, but guys, if you're buying Destined Rivals at $300, I think you should be thinking about this stuff. So that's all I want to say. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think about this information. Do you think it's relevant? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.